That's a really brilliant idea. Sounds like a lot of fun.
You heard it here first.
That's right.
And the home of the brave. Game on!
Welcome to episode 109 of the Hit the Deck podcast, where we talk deck hockey, street hockey, ball hockey. It's hockey in sneakers. And I am going to try to continue a trend that we've been pretty good with lately here on the podcast. And I'm going to jump right into our starting lineup for tonight, just to get that out of the way up front. And for tonight's starting lineup, as ever in goal, I am number 35, your American Rhino, Gary McComiskey, and of course, my valiant co-host.
On defense, number 4, I'm James Sajazi.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. The internet is not treating us well tonight, so hopefully we'll still get a good podcast out of it, but among other things. But kind of sad, too, for some things that you'll be bringing up.
Agreed.
Podcast.
So just to give you, the listener, a qualifier here up top, between the internet and the fact that I'm still using my backup laptop, if at any point we're having a conversation and it sounds conspicuously like something is missing, like there was some setup line or some part of the conversation just abruptly got dropped, it's probably because either the internet or my laptop caused that to not record properly. So we apologize in advance. Stick with us. Hopefully it will be a good podcast nevertheless. But speaking of loss, however, James, as you alluded to, yeah, unfortunately this week was a tough one. Last week was also not great for wrestlers in particular. There was a bunch of wrestlers that all died actually on the same day. And I guess the most well-known, or one of the most well-known among them, was Brian Christopher, who was the son of Jerry the King Lawler. So, he was a tragic story, and I'm sure you can look him up if you're really interested. But this week was not much better. Wrestling-wise, we had earlier this week, we lost one half of the Hart Foundation tag team, the former partner of Bret the Hitman Hart and father of Natty Neidhart, who is a current WWE superstar. We lost Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and he passed away unexpectedly. And, it's sad. He's a part of a lot of people's childhood. He was part of probably one of the best tag teams of all time, at least one of the best WWF tag teams. And, he had a lasting impact, and not only in what he himself did, but in what his daughter is currently doing and in the people that he influenced as a wrestler. So, Anvil, we will miss you wherever you are. I hope you're selling out the joint and headlining.
Yeah, amen to that. Bret Hart is my all-time favorite wrestler, and yeah, growing up, those are my guys. That was my tag team, the Hart Foundation. So that hits me pretty hard too. And you said that very well. On behalf of all of us guys and girls, I guess, that grew up watching wrestling in the early 80s and stuff like that, it's pretty painful. So yeah, it's sad for Natty. So hopefully, just following her on Twitter, obviously she's totally heartbroken. I was curious to see what they did on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown as well. I'm sure they did their tributes. Unfortunately, I'm not getting home in time to watch these programs, and I don't have DVR and whatnot, but very sad. And Bret Hart himself, following him, obviously couldn't even say anything because he was so brokenhearted, and no pun intended. But yeah, rest in peace, Anvil.
Yeah, they, just to answer your question, I was a little surprised they didn't do a graphic at the top of the show or come out on the stage as everybody does sometimes for a 10 bell salute. Really big wrestler deaths, but they did have a very nice highlight package about him during the show. And as part of the opening promo on Raw, Ronda Rousey talked about how her friend Natty is really, hurting and missing her father, and how important a father is to a little girl in her life. and how deep of a loss the Anvil passing was going to be felt by Natty and by everybody in the WWE. So I thought that was pretty classy. They mentioned it on SmackDown as well. I don't remember if they did a video package of any kind, but they definitely addressed it there as well. So the Anvil did not pass unnoticed.
All right.
And then the other, which, the Anvil was a fairly big loss in the wrestling world, but the other loss that happened just today as we record was a loss that's going to be felt all over the world, period. And that, of course, was Lady Soul Aretha Franklin, who, lost a battle with pancreatic cancer. And, I swear this isn't like a fat joke or anything. She was larger than life, just in terms of the impact that she had on people. Her music obviously was incredibly powerful. And, when you think of that kind of soul Motown era, you can't not think of Aretha Franklin. She was the queen of soul. She had that powerful voice that just came from inside and just, hit you like a freight train. She was definitely very impactful. And I mean, even up to a couple of years ago, I saw a bunch of news articles and I had forgotten about this, but at the time it was a big deal when she did the national anthem for the Lions game on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago in 2016.
Right.
And some people thought that was the best performance of the national anthem of all time. I don't know if I would go that far, but it was definitely a powerful, impactful performance. And, it's really remarkable with some of these singers that even towards the end of their lives, when they're not in great shape and, their best years are behind them, they can still reach down and deliver the kind of performance that she did. It's a credit and a tribute to the woman's talent, and the music world and the world at large is definitely going to feel her loss.
Very well said. And exactly, sorry for sounding like a grumpy old man here, but, obviously Aretha Franklin predates Gary and I, but that era of coming up whenever her career started, obviously I know her from the early 60s on, as you said, with Motown and all that wonderful, fantastic, great music, and she lasted for decades. But those were real professionals. These people were really talented. They could really sing. They weren't just put together by some producer nonsense and looked pretty. I mean, they really could do it. And nothing proves that more than singing live, as Miss Franklin was able to do for decades, and really never lost her chops from what I've heard. Playing piano, just totally, really talented. And for anybody growing up nowadays with whatever, you got Ariana Grande or, everybody's the same with the nasal screaming and yelling and produced and harmonized and whatever. Just do yourself a favor. If you really want to listen to real talented, great music, I'm not talking about when I grew up in the 80s and all that stuff. I'm talking about, like Gary said, Motown and real soul and music like that. And Aretha Franklin was at the fore. So it is a huge loss. And unfortunately, the generations before were able to enjoy her, and hopefully younger generations will be able to appreciate what true talent is. And may she live on forever.
Yeah, there's a song that Tom Petty did, the late Tom Petty at this point. That's another one that we lost last year, was it? Or earlier this year? I don't remember even. But
yeah, I mean, so many great talents have gone in the last couple of years. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, but in his album, The Last DJ, there is a song called Joe, which is a very cynical... the premise of the song is that the titular Joe is the CEO of a music label, and he's singing about, what makes for a successful musical artist these days. And there's one, I guess it's kind of the chorus, but I don't know. But he says, give me a girl. They're always the best. You put them on stage and you have them undress. Some angel blank who can learn a guitar lick. Hey, now that's what I call music. And, it's the song is very like sarcastic and cynical. But, honestly, I'm not saying there are no talented female performers now, because that's a gross generalization and it's, not fair, frankly. But a lot of the as you kind of alluded to, ultra produced music now is just kind of just that. You know, you get a girl who looks good, who can dance a little, and who can, you know, kind of sing well enough that you can auto-tune into something passable, and, you know, people flock to see her. And like I said, it's not the case across the board, but it is a common enough play that it has become a little cliche. And you do have to go back to those people like Aretha Franklin who could really do it. I mean, she was raw talent and charisma and style and grace. And, you know, she was incredible. You know, and I can't say much more than that. And again, I don't want to make this like kids these days don't know nothing about music. I don't want to make it one of those, because that's not what this is about. But, you know, we've lost one of the really special talents today. That's all.
Yeah, and if you don't believe us, quite frankly, what I think I'm trying to say is, on average, you could take anyone like the Supremes, Tina Turner, or, you know, any of them back then, just sticking with the women, and they literally can blow anybody out of the water nowadays. That's a popular singer. And it's just basically, it's just about talent. Just on average, back then, to really make it, you had to really be talented. Nowadays, it's easy with YouTube and Instagram. Everybody's a star. Everybody has a million hits. And it's really been diluted. So just if we're being a little bit too long in the tooth and my day and so on and so forth, forgive us, but we're just trying to help everybody. And losing Aretha Franklin and people of that caliber, you don't want them to go away, because they were so great and they deserve to continue to be great and listened to and admired. And hopefully that will always be the case. You know, a lot of these people are getting older now, and we only have 2 Beatles left, and so on and so forth. So,
and one of them is Ringo.
People. I love Ringo, but yeah, I hear you. But you know, I mean, and Paul McCartney was very gracious what he had to say about Aretha as well. So just really, no, we're not progressing. Okay, you know, we're kind of taking steps backwards here. But yeah, sorry, but we miss you, Aretha, already.
I would just like to point out that we do not have a million hits on YouTube or anywhere else.
No.
So
no.
If you want to help us out with that, you know, I'd be happy to auto-tune something and pretend to have talent. But yeah, you know, there's something to be said for fame, even if it's not earned.
Justin Bieber did or does play ice hockey in a way, and I think, didn't he pop up at an All-Star game or something? Was abused a little bit by real pros, but
I think
whatever.
so. Yes,
that's as close as Pop-Tarts that we'll get to. There's a connection with hockey and Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, all right. Well, do you want to get going with the podcast, James? Is there anything else, any good news or anything interesting happening this past week that we should talk about before we jump into the podcast proper?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm okay. I actually had a really good weekend in net when I played hockey. I don't want to brag too much, but we had some great games. We played on Sunday. As I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, we play shorter games, 6-minute periods usually. It was so hot and humid on Sunday that we played 5-minute periods. We also didn't have any sub. Well, no, we had one sub that we switched between teams. So we played 3 games, and I got myself a sweep.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to sound, I'm, you know, teaching class here or getting up on a soapbox, but I think it's, you know, this is going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn here. It's a tribute to my dedication and my resilience. No, the first game I played, the first period, I was just awful. I was hot garbage. I said to my teammates, you know, I apologize. I said I played that period like I bought a ticket. Like, you know, I gave up 3 goals in 5 minutes, and it would have been even more if not for a few lucky posts and inexplicable misses on open nets. But I just I refocused myself between periods, and I just kind of was able to wake myself up and get my head in the game. And we wound up winning that game, I think 5-4 in overtime.
Wow.
We scored, and by we, I mean Brad, friend of the podcast, Brad Vonsky. We had pulled me, and so it was with an empty net. And it was literally less than a second left. Brad scored the tying goal. I'm not trying to pile on or brag. And opposing goalie, Sean, is a loyal listener of the podcast. And I want to say Sean played a great series of games himself. He deserved at least one win with the way he played. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I don't want to take anything away from him. He was, he was great. But for my confidence, I've not won a lot of games lately, and I've been in one of those kind of funks where I start to wonder, is it time? And I know, James, you would vehemently disagree with that. But, as a goalie, I can only speak for myself, but, you lose enough games, you feel like I'm costing my team. I'm the problem. So a day like Sunday when, I can get 3 solid wins in a day and really be on my game, because again, this is going to sound like me bragging, but I really feel like I was on my game, and I have been the last few weeks. And Sunday it finally started to pay off. I've been playing a lot better. I think it's a lesson, and I think it's something that I want to put out there, that if you have a bad game, or if you have 5 or 6 bad games or whatever, you just keep pushing, and eventually you're going to break through. The tide will turn. And even if you start a game badly, as I did on Sunday in my first game, don't give up. Don't break your stick and storm off the rink and say, sorry guys, I don't have it today, and basically forfeit the game in your head, because it's never over until the final horn blows. You got to trust that you can hold the line, and you've got to trust that your teammates can pick you up. And sometimes you do have those magical runs. So, I guess I feel like this is like an after school special or, a Disney Channel movie, but don't give up. Just keep on keeping on, and you'll get it in the end.
But that's the problem with the goalie mentality, is a goalie always feels like he wins and he loses, or she. And that's not the case. It's so unfair. And as you said it best yourself about Sean. He wasn't beaten. The team was beaten. So, how many times have you seen great and being Ranger fans with guys like Lundqvist, and being Mets fans too for the pitchers, these guys have to do everything to win games. If you give up a goal and you lose, that's not on the goalie. Even if you just face 3 shots, it's not on the goalie. You know what I mean? So, exactly. And in our league, there aren't many teams, so we're always facing one another. And just laws of percentages, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. So it has nothing to do with, unless you're really, really bad. And that's definitely not the case for any goalie in the LIQ, especially not you and Sean. So, yeah, that's just the way it goes. And especially if you're spending less time playing, there's less opportunity to win. And you never know. So that's the problem of balancing playing against the clock. And the goalie, it's just not fair. And I didn't come up with that either. I've heard that about fathers who have their sons playing in the NHL. And that's the problem, is they take the blame for the loss, but they don't take the credit for the wins either. So that's just not fair.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. Yes, it is a team game. You're absolutely right. And a goalie can't win a game on his own, no matter how good he is. And yes, I absolutely agree with you with the loss is my fault part of it. But as far as not taking credit for a win, I think when you have a good enough game and you stop some really good shots, I think most take credit for that to some extent. Because honestly, if I'm talking and looking at myself objectively, part of it is ego. It's the same with, I'm sure, with a starting pitcher or a quarterback in football, or, like a point guard in basketball, I guess. It's ego. You want to be the person with the ball in your hand if it's basketball, or you want to be the guy or girl on whose shoulders the game rests. You want that responsibility, and part and parcel with that is the mentality that it's my fault. That comes with the position. Look, this is a generalization. The way I look at it, that's your job, and it's on you. That's what drives you. That's the fire that keeps you going. And there's a certain amount of pride and a lot of ego. So I guess the short version is, objectively, yes, the goalie is only one cog in the team, but it's my team and my game to win or lose. All right, I think I've talked enough about myself and my craft, but mainly myself. So I think I'm going to let you talk for a little while, James. Could I convince you, if you would not mind, please telling us what is on deck for this podcast?
No convincing necessary.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Decks on Deck, an amazing hockey charity program known as Hockey Sticks Together, will be adding deck hockey to its roster. A deck hockey pal. The Police Athletic League of Pottstown, PA makes no doubt about it with their incredible deck hockey programs. And the Arizona Coyotes have already done the impossible by uniting Coyotes with Roadrunners. And now they have taken yet another great step in promoting the beautiful sport of deck hockey. And that's what's on deck.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome, sir.
I would just like to point out that I was taking a drink while you were doing the on deck just now. And when you broke out that meep meep, I was a hair's breadth away from a spit take. Like, my laptop almost got soaked. And I thank you for delivering on that. That was great.
I appreciate that. Well, I owe you a few, so I'm lacking in the funny things. So trying to make up for that. So a new charity in Pittsburgh, and they really know what they're doing in terms of promoting hockey, especially deck hockey. And there's one foundation called Hockey Sticks Together, and they raised over $100,000 for inner city kids and wounded veterans. And led by Chris Kunitz, he's a current player, just signed with the Blackhawks as a matter of fact, and some of his teammates or friends with a golf outing, and then after that an auction and dinner. That's how they were able to raise $100,000. So with the help of Kunitz, John Gibson, who plays for the Ducks, Vincent Trocheck of Florida, and former Penguin Craig Adams all teamed up to do this wonderful thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Look, we talk about these philanthropic ventures here on the podcast, fairly frequently. This is special. This is a program like this, I think, not to oversell it. I don't know if you can oversell it, but I really think this is very valuable, and I really applaud Hockey Sticks Together for putting this thing together.
Yeah, just like you were saying, Hockey Sticks Together Foundation, and speaking of team mentality, have combined in the Pittsburgh area to maximize the effectiveness and help as many people as possible. And that's what's so beautiful about it and generous about it. It's all about helping. It's not about egos or outdoing one another. It's all about doing the right thing. And it's just all good. Michael Humphreys is the executive director, and now he oversees 11 teams, something called Hockey is for Everyone. And as he was saying, he's quoted as saying, "We can raise 5 times more money together than we could if we were just the mighty Penguins." So the beautiful thing about this, they're going to include deck hockey. They're doing all of this for ice hockey and sleds and all this other great stuff, but they haven't done deck hockey, which you figure that's probably the easiest one and would get the most people involved.
There's never a bad time to play deck hockey.
Absolutely. So definitely Best of luck to the good people of Pittsburgh. Their hearts are absolutely in the right place. They've done great work. Again, Gary and I have mentioned them in the past on this podcast, and hopefully that they could reach as many people and maybe even expand beyond Pittsburgh to other cities and help out wonderful, good people.
Actually, there probably are some bad times to play deck hockey. Like, say, if your wife is having a baby, you probably shouldn't be playing deck hockey. There are some bad times to play deck hockey. But generally speaking, it's a good idea, and I'm in favor of it.
Absolutely. And yes, just to put a cap on this is that the exploding number of youth players that are getting involved, that they went from 150 current players. They think they could go as far as 250 by next year. And the other great thing about that, too, is speaking of expanding, is Hockey Sticks Together Foundation receives help from both the Penguins Foundation, the NHL Penguins, that is, and the NHL itself. Hockey is for Everyone program. And the Pittsburgh model is now being used for other cities and organizations as a way to improve opportunities for everybody. And maybe even Canada could get involved as well. So good stuff.
Ron Canada?
Who's that? Is he related to Ron Hawk?
No, Ron Canada is an actor. He's been in things. I mean, okay. He's like he's one of those guys that is kind of a character actor that you see. It's like, oh yeah, that guy. But yeah, he's Ron Canada.
Okay.
You'd probably recognize him if you saw him.
Well done. Good. Nice way of being a pal, American Rhino.
I see what you did there, James. I see what you did there.
Sure. Getting back to the great state of Pennsylvania, up in Pottstown, PA, Area Police Athletic League, also known as PAL, is expanding its deck hockey, which they've already had for 30 years. Now they're expanding to an instructional program designed to get 4 and 5-year-olds, boys and girls. They're going to call it a Chipmunk League. And it's the largest intramural sneaker hockey league in Eastern PA. And it's all about teaching, again, the fundamentals of hockey. And it's really phenomenal. I mean, 30 years of this, and it's still going strong. That's the way to do it. So just to give you an idea about the PAL Deck Hockey League in Pottstown, PA, they have boys and girls from ages 6 to 18 intramural leagues of 4 to 7 teams each. The league is played outdoors, just like the LIQ and other great deck hockey leagues that we all know and love. And it's in West Pottsgrove, the elementary school deck where they play one night a week. And they play games on weekends. So everybody gets a chance to play. Everybody gets a chance to have fun and enjoy himself. Also, at the end, every team makes the playoff, and there's a double elimination playoff for the teams. And after that, there's a parent-child game and parties. So it's from beginning to end, fun, fun, fun.
Woo! Party! Ain't no party like a deck party.
Amen to that.
I don't think that's a thing. That's like I imagine a deck party is generally a party on somebody's deck. So that's not really the same thing. But you know what? I remember ice skating. No, I shouldn't say that. I didn't ice skate. I never went to any ice skating parties. I remember roller skating parties at Laces, which ironically turned into an ice skating rink at some point. So I remember, pizza parties and bowling parties, and there was a video game arcade kind of place called Our Place 2 that did parties, birthday parties. Never had a deck party. I think that would have been pretty cool, actually, and pretty easy to organize. You know what? Pottstown aside, I am in favor of throwing a deck hockey party for your child as a birthday party. It seems like it would be pretty cheap. All you have to do is get a bunch of, basically Milek plastic hockey sticks, which when you're talking about the cheapest ones, compared to what you would pay for a party, which is thousands of dollars now, you get a few sticks. You get a couple of nets. If you already have nets, bonus. Maybe you rent out a park or you rent out some time on a rink of some sort. But it seems like it would be pretty easy to put together, and it seems like it would be a lot of fun, and it would be a learning experience for a lot of the kids. So, make the birthday child the captain of one of the teams that gets first pick or first 2 picks or whatever, and go. Just it's a thing. This could be a thing, James.
I think it should start with a certain American Rhino's birthday, which just so happens to be coming up very soon.
Is that a fact? It's funny. My wife, just the other day, informed me that my daughter is counting down the days. Oh. And I'm not even counting the days till my birthday. Oh, of course, because we go to Applebee's for our birthday. And my daughter especially enjoys, when the wait staff comes over and sings happy birthday to us. So that's, it's always a treat to go to Applebee's, but that especially just tickles her. So she's really looking forward to that. And, great.
Excellent.
But as far as the deck hockey party, I'm down for that. Although I will say that historically, I'm very bad at picking teams. So if I am picking the teams, I want John, Brad, and Brett.
Done. Happy birthday.
All right, great. There are many talented people in the LIQ, but in terms of pure skill and two-way players, I think I can't go wrong with those guys.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would be offended by that. It's, there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of talented guys out there. And anytime we've ever split up teams, too, where it seems like one team is a lot more talented or on paper than the other, and they've been the most evenly matched games that we've ever played. So that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of deck hockey in general, too, which is what PAL is doing over in Pottstown, and they have more than 300 players in their regular league. So now they have to expand both spring and fall seasons, which started back in 2013. And then this summer, they partnered with Hockey Pottstown Penguins, a local ice hockey team, for development camps for children's ages 4 to 10, 2 nights a week. So they've got everything going here from deck through ice. Everybody's on board. It's fantastic. It's for the kids mostly, and you're just developing great habits, love of the sport, and future. I'm sure the NHL is going to love that too, because you're going to have future players coming out of these great leagues and programs.
Yeah, I got to say, this is kind of apropos of nothing, but one of the organizations that's working with PAL is, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this, the Schuylkill Valley Sports, and also Milac, but that kind of makes me think of like a Jerry Lewis kind of Schuylkill. Schuylkill was Schuylkill in the high. You know.
I cheated and looked it up how to pronounce that, and I think it's Schuylkill, so you're extremely close, but I like the way you pronounce it better anyway, so Schuylkill. That's how it's going to be for this podcast.
Schuylkill! That's, I mean, whatever. It's hockey. I'm used to names being pronounced differently from the way they look. Right. That happens all the time in the NHL, but I don't know, Schuylkill sounds, I mean, whatever. If that's how they pronounce the town, that's fine. I have a long history of people mispronouncing my name, so I understand that can be a little bit annoying. So, fine. Your town is Schuylkill, and I accept that. But Schuylkill, I just think that's more fun. So,
Agreed.
In some alternate reality, I think the town can be called Schuylkill.
I said before, you can't believe everything you read and hear on the internet, so that could be wrong. Schuylkill. Yeah, but I like your pronunciation much better. Yeah, so they've expanded to pre-K and kindergarten aged children now, and that's going to be played on 2 nights for instructionals. And the youngsters will have on-rink instruction from coaches and scrimmages for better development. They'll be playing with colleagues, or at least children in their own ages, so everybody can develop at the same time, and no one will be left behind either. So that's really thoughtful. And Alverna University's men's ice hockey team head coach, Steve Rowe, is going to be a coach there too, and you're going to be taught the proper way, which is extremely important when you're just starting out. So you want an excellent foundation and build from that. So yes, the Schuylkill Valley Sports and Milac Hockey, they provide free sticks for the players.
So this is just, I mean, yes, it is, if it is in fact pronounced Schuylkill, the obscure and weird frame of references that I have. When I hear Schuylkill, I think of the song Kooky. From like the 50s. Schuylkill, give me your stick. Like, I don't, that's what I think of. There's something wrong with me, James. Like, nobody, maybe one or two people who actually listen to this podcast are going to have the slightest idea what I'm talking about. There was a song popular in the late 50s called Kooky, Lend Me Your Comb. So, like, that's what Schuylkill, give me your stick. Like, what, why? I don't know.
Well, that's why I listen to this podcast, is because I think you're hysterical and very talented. So whatever works, you're doing a good job at it.
I don't know. My poor wife.
She gets all this free entertainment that nonstop. Who needs to watch TV? She's got you.
She doesn't have time. She certainly doesn't have time to put up with my nonsense.
Oh, well. But the Pottstown PAL deck hockey teams with other organizations such as Hill Hockey Helps, Pottstown Sports Carnival.
Step right up. Everyone's a winner, except for the teams that lose. Step right up.
Reading.
I believe it's pronounced Reading, actually.
Yeah, you're right. I can't read. And
it's like the classic television show Reading Rainbow. Butterfly in the sky, go. I can go twice as high, go. Wow. How many people can I offend in this one podcast? Let's see. I'm insulting somebody's town. I'm wrecking somebody's childhood. Let's keep going. I'm on a roll.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So Pottsgrove School District has also been involved as well for hosting events. And if you want more information on this, we'll put it on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. And all registrations are held online at www.pottstownpal.org. And if you're in the Pottstown, Pennsylvania area, no excuse not to.
I just want to say that LeVar Burton is a national treasure, and God bless that man.
Amen to that.
Like, I grew up on Reading Rainbow. I know so many people of our generation did, and he's like, seriously, like him and Mr. Rogers and, the Sesame Street gang and people like that, who, basically everybody on PBS from when we were kids. Just thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burton. You deserve better than what we've given you on this podcast.
And yeah, right. Thanks for speaking for all of us too. But speaking of Mr. Rogers for our generation, and I always said that as well, is my Mr. Rogers or our generation, Mr. Rogers was LeVar Burton and really cemented his greatness. And yes, hopefully we didn't offend you. Happen to listen to this or somebody tells you about it.
I'm only speaking for myself, but I don't want to undersell Fred Rogers either.
Yeah, so just for me, I'm still a great, wonderful, generous man, but he was like, I don't know, I felt like I could hang out with LeVar. I felt like, yeah, he's my pal. We'll go hang out and go to a library or wherever, go camping, so many great episodes he had in Reading Rainbow.
James, you don't have to feel that way. Mr. Rogers always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so...
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. And speaking of great neighborhoods, let's end up in Arizona, in this wonderful country of the U.S., where, again, we've talked about this in the past, the great work that the Coyotes have been doing specifically for deck hockey. And hit the Deck 70, go back and check that out for what the Coyotes have been doing. And since the spring of 2017, they have built multiple deck hockey rinks in the Arizona area around that beautiful state. So that is amazing. They just really, that was the idea as well, to promote the team a little bit more. And deck hockey is definitely a great way to do that. And the Coyotes minor league Roadrunners. So for all you Warner Brothers fans out there who know about the huge rivalry between Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, this is really mind-blowing. The Tucson Roadrunners have unveiled a brand new deck hockey rink about a month ago, which is pretty awesome. And they even have plans for this new deck hockey rink to install lights and put a cover over it too, because it could get really hot.
I believe that.
And they want to have as much fun and play as long as they can and enjoy it. So to be able to play at night under the lights and or at least during the day, block out that hot sun and be in the shade.
Now, we put a link to like a hockey rink unveiling on our Facebook page recently, and I believe it was in Arizona. Was that this, or was that something else?
Yes, it was, as a matter of fact. Very good call, American Rhino.
Yeah, well, you do all the legwork. I just work here.
That's the same thing. So if you haven't seen it before, if you could backtrack a little bit, you could check it out. And we'll try and put the current link again on our Twitter and Facebook pages. So in case you can't find it, we'll make it a lot more easy to find it. Or a lot easier to find it, I should say. So that's the cool thing. Mr. Wade Ruff is a spokesman for the Tucson Roadrunners, combined with the Boys and Girls Club, the Tucson Unified School District as well. They will be using the rink during school days, and then the Boys and Girls Club after hours will have it from there with their programs. And it's all taken care of by the Tucson Roadrunners, and everybody gets to share, everybody has fun, and it's, again, another great example of what care goes into the wonderful sport of deck and how it is open specifically for children, but for anybody. As Gary and I have said many a time, and guests on this podcast have agreed, that if you want to play, there's no restrictions whatsoever. You're welcome to play deck hockey. Try it. Doesn't matter, boy, girl, man, woman, and anything else, age. There have been stories about deck hockey players that are in their 60s and 80s, for crying out loud. So there's really no limit, and check it out. And great job by the Arizona Coyotes and the Tucson Roadrunners for doing everything they can to encourage people to play. And brand spanking new deck hockey rinks. Boy, oh boy, I wish it was like that here in New York.
I think we could put one of those rinks to good use between the two of us.
Yeah, and only like a little over 2 years, they have built 3 deck rinks in the Phoenix area already. So well done on them.
Last minute remaining in the podcast.
Thank you, Pops. Okay. So, Pops, thank you for being the voice of the podcast. Thank you to you for listening to the podcast and sticking with us. I know it got off to a little bit of a somber start, but I hope we were able to make it worth your while. Thank you to Anthony Sajazi for providing music to the podcast. Thank you to the LIQ. And, really, thank you to everybody who's contributed. So if you would like to listen to the podcast some more, I would encourage you to subscribe. Go find us on one of those. Review us. That would be the biggest help of all. If you would please consent to review us. It'll take you 5 minutes. Go on iTunes and find the podcast and throw us a review. We would love you forever if you did that. So thank you for that. And if you want to talk to us, if you want to get in touch with us, if you want to share a story with us, feedback on something that we've talked about, give your opinion. Really, if there's anything that you think we should know, you can get us at hitthedeck@gmail.com. That is our email address. You can tweet at us at hitthedeckpod. You can get us on Instagram, or we are Hit the Deck Podcast on the YouTubes. James, is there anything that you'd care to add?
Yeah, check out the Columbus Deck Hockey Association, the Raleigh Street Hockey League, and if you're in a generous mood, go check out LaGrange Hockey. And they're another great situation over there promoting the great sport of deck hockey, and donate some gear or money to their wonderful cause as well. And thanks for listening.
How can you go wrong? Yes, I echo that sentiment. Thank you for listening. And of course, as always, I will thank you to remember that whether you are mourning the death of a beloved figure in your life, or whether you are celebrating your deck hockey birthday, whether you are helping people who have a little bit of difficulty helping themselves playing hockey, or whether you are just somebody who is trying to grow the game through altruism and philanthropy. Regardless of what you are doing, I encourage you always to remember it's deck hockey. Don't be that guy. Thanks, everybody. Sorry.
That's okay. I just thought the voices in my head were getting a little louder.